from the cave, the king of Jerusalem, the king of Hebron, the king of Jarmuth, the king of Lachish, the king of Eglon. And it came about when they brought these kings out to Joshua, Joshua called for all the men of Israel and said to the chiefs of the men of war who had gone with him, "Come near, put your feet on the necks of these kings." So they came near and put their feet on their necks. Joshua then said to them, "Do not fear or be dismayed. Be strong and courageous, for thus the Lord will do to all your enemies with whom you fight." So afterward Joshua struck them and put them to death, and he hanged them on 5 trees, and they hung on the trees until evening. Well, we'll stop right there for just a second. Sounds kind of gruesome to kill some more people. Step on their necks. He brought them up and step on their necks. Why do you reckon he told them, come here and put your foot on their necks? It's a symbol. It's absolute victory and subjugation. If I'm stepping on your neck, I have beaten you, right? Living, step on your neck. That would be humiliating, wouldn't it? It would be terrible. But it's just a picture of, have you ever seen the pictures, sometimes a guy, the old big game guy shot an elephant or a lion or something. Well, they're always standing there with their foot on it like that, right? You know, this is the picture here. I am the winner. I've proved it. I've trod you under my feet. And so that was the symbol they were sent as of this complete victory. But a lot of times, kings were not executed maybe with the rest of their army, especially in the ancient world. Kings were often spared and kept by the victors. If you defeated another kingdom, you didn't just go and kill their king. A lot of times you kept him as a slave or a servant or a type of vassal, just to demonstrate how great a king and how strong a king you are. In fact, if you look over here in Judges chapter 1 and verse 7, uh, there's an instance where a guy named Adonai-Bezek, he was a king, and he was captured and brought. They cut off his big toes and cut off his thumbs. That sounds kind of, why would you do that? What do you think about it? If you don't have a thumb, you can't hold a sword. If you don't have a big toe, you can't run. You pretty much cripple this guy, made him useless as a soldier, but you keep him alive as a prize of war. And Adonai-Bezek said, 70 kings with their thumbs and big toes cut off used to gather up scraps under my table. As I have done, so God has repaid me. They brought him to Jerusalem, and he died there. And so here's this idea that they got the king and cut his thumbs and big toes off, so it's just symbolically he can't be a warrior anymore. And now we set him over here at this table so that if I'm treating another king, I'm trying to make a treaty with him, I can show him all my war prizes here, these other kings who couldn't stand up to me. And you see this throughout the Old Testament. In fact, later on, some of the Judean kings would be kept in Babylon. Nebuchadnezzar would have them at his table, for this very same reason. In 1 Samuel 15, you'll find where King Saul, went out and fought against a king named Agag. And at that time, he was supposed to kill Agag and all of his people and all of his flocks, and he didn't do it. He spared Agag, same kind of thing. I encourage you to go read that story because it reads like Samuel came and challenged him about it. Why didn't you kill him? Well, I was going to, but he hadn't got around to it. That's my loose translation. And so Samuel calls him over there and kills him himself. He was doing the same thing. He's sparing this king, having him sit there. He's kind of a trophy, kind of a symbol of here's how great I am. Here's something to remind me of something that I've done that I really enjoyed or I really was good at and all this. And that's kind of what we do sometimes with our sinful lives. We want to keep prizes. We reminders. We're not who we were before we came to Christ. And yet we want to hang on to some things. Well, I was really good at this, or I really like that, or you ever had something in your life you just really don't want to let go of, but that thing is holding you back from being who God is calling you to be? It's not really a prize then if it's standing in the way of our growth, is it? And it can be a lot of things, y'all. It can be a job. It can be a relationship. It can be a church. Sometimes we don't want to let go of things that God is telling us. You don't hang on to that. It's not a prize for you to keep. You need to keep growing into who I've called you to be. The battle's not done yet. Keep pushing forward. Joshua and them had this complete victory. They didn't hang on to the surprises, and they had a public execution and burial. We saw that there in verse 26 and 27. He says, afterward he struck them, put them to death. He hanged them on 5 trees. They hung on the trees till evening, and it came about at sunset that Joshua commanded, and they took them down from the trees and threw them into the cave where they had hidden themselves, and put large stones over the mouth of the cave to this very day. And so put them back in that cave they were hiding in, buried them, and up to the point this book was written, and maybe you go there and you can see that pile of rocks sealing that cave up. What those kings thought was their refuge became their grave. It's what sin. It's what sin is for us, y'all. Either we mortify the flesh, to use an old-fashioned term, put sin to death in our lives and bury it, or sin will bury us. Where we're safe, that's just our grave. You know, these guys thought they could hide in that cave. That cave is where they still are to this day, whatever left of them, their bones. Well, this is where sin leads. It leads to the grave. That's it. I love there's an old poem by an English poet named Thomas Gray. It's a long poem. Don't worry, I'm not going to read it all to you. Elegy in a country churchyard. He's sitting in this old churchyard, and he's looking at the headstones, quoting the short and simple annals of the poor, people who aren't famous, people that didn't have their passing much noted, but yet, the worth of every life. There's a line in there where he says, all that the pomp of heraldry, all that beauty, all that wealth ever gave, away to like the inevitable hour, the paths of glory lead but to the grave. All the money you can spend, all the wealth you can accumulate, all of the fame you can get, all the notoriety, all the influence, all that is just going to the grave. Okay? That can distract us. That stuff can keep us from having a full victory. You keep pushing, and you keep pursuing, and you keep going after what God has called you to be. And that is to be the likeness of His Son right here and right now. And we'll see complete victory if we can bury the sin and walk away from it. Just like the Israelites buried those 5 kings and walked away from them. We'll stop right there tonight. Pick back up in verse 29 next time as the conquest goes on. Hope you enjoyed us here tonight. I want to encourage you, if you're joining us online, that we will be back here at this same time next Wednesday night, 6:30, here for our Bible study. We are back in person, and you can join us here. You can join us on Sunday morning at the sanctuary at 9 o'clock for Bible study here in the fellowship hall for adults, and we have age-graded Bible study for the children as well. And so we encourage you to join us if you can. And join us online, either through Facebook, YouTube, or anything, whatever you're watching us on here. And contact us. We would love to hear from you and let us know what God is doing in your life, or if there's any prayer requests or something we need to be in contact with you about. Thank you. God bless you.